Jesus is at the center of your life, you will never what?
You are.
What?
You are.
It never works.
You never.
You will never.
Be you are.
No, if Jesus is at the center of your life, you yourself, that's not good.
I want you to complete the sentence. If Jesus is at the center of your life, you will never fill in the blank. You will never what?
Commit to follow or commit to see out your purpose.
Okay, you'll never fulfill your purpose. You'll never fulfill the purpose of why you're on this earth.
I mean, Mike said you might never know it, but I said, no, you could possibly know it. But if you don't make it the center of your life, you probably won't pursue it.
You won't pursue
commit
it
to it or fulfill it.
if
You
you're
still
not
might
the
know
center.
it.
You'll never be committed to pursue it.
Right.
Okay.
About to.
How about over here, back here? Never.
We had, okay, mine was be free. Yours was love.
You'll never be free. You'll never
Know what love really is.
know what love really is. That's good. That's good. There's a lot of good answers. You'll never
Really experience life. True life.
really experience life.
Yeah.
That's right. Who's perfect here? Who's perfect here? I mean, how's all we, so who does Jesus call? He calls what?
Imperfect people.
Very imperfect people, doesn't he? How do very imperfect people have Jesus in the center? Come on now. How do we do this?
One day at a time.
Okay, one day at a time. How else? That's good. We got to break it down. You got to break it down, don't you? Anybody ever been on a diet? How do you diet? What are you going to say? If you're 40 pounds overweight, what are you going to say? You can have your eye on 40 pounds, say, I got to lose 40 pounds. There's no way. The next meal, I got to look at. I got to look at today. Okay, how do you do it? You got to break it down and say, okay, what would it mean if Jesus were at the center of my life today? What would it mean if I would go home today and Jesus was truly at the center of my life? What would I do today if He were? Forget about the past. You can't do anything about it. Forget about tomorrow. It's not yet to come. We're not guaranteed it anyway. Today is the day. Okay, next. What else? How are we going to... How is Jesus going to be at the center? How do we live? How are we able to do it?
By spending time with Him.
Okay, that would be part of what you need to do today. Okay, you need to start making some commitments today. How about that? That's what I'm hearing you say. You need to start making commitments towards making Him the center today. How many here have a commitment today to make Him the center? You have something you're going to do today that's going to ensure that He's going to be at the center today. If there's no commitments, it's like falling up the mountain. You don't go walking around and all of a sudden you say, oh, how did I get up here? It's Mount Everest. I'm at the tippy top. I fell up here. It's never going to happen. You're never going to fall up the mountain. You're never going to fall into a great relationship with God. You're never going to fall into losing 40 pounds. If you got to, you're going to have to make a daily commitment. There has to be some daily commitments done. Right? Okay, what else? If you're going to go to the mountain, what are you going to do? Give
Gotta
it
be
in.
Yeah,
prepared.
bring supplies.
Train.
Gotta have
Okay, you gotta prepare.
Yeah.
You gotta prepare, okay. How many go to work? I mean, you know, if you're planning to eat at work, you better be prepared, or else it's gonna be a bad day.
You better get dressed on it.
You know, you gotta have the right kind of clothes on, you gotta have the, you know, if you need your wallet, you need your wallet with, you gotta have your keys, you gotta make sure there's enough gas in the car, you gotta prepare. You gotta think ahead, you gotta prepare. Okay, so you need to make, that's part of the daily commitment, is you need to daily be committed to prepare. Say, man, this has already taken some of my time. I think one of the few things in life that we have to do is take time to prepare. Take time to see, what is it going to mean? What's it going to mean to be successful in this? We got to prepare for this. What else? We're going up the mountain.
You have to start walking.
Already movement.
You have to start doing it, like, to go on the front of the world.
Okay, well, you're sort of trying to work it out. You got to have a strategy. You got to have a vision. You just a good idea ain't going to get it done. How many know that working hard isn't like working smart?
Okay, all right.
I mean, we need to have a vision and we need a vision. How about we need each other? We need open and honest relationships with other people that are going the same direction. We need fellowship with each other too. If Jesus is at the center of your life, you will never find real satisfaction and joy. I believe that's what the drug addict wants. Some sort of satisfaction and joy. That's what everyone wants. I don't know if you tell the drug addict, you're really in search for God, but you don't know it. It's probably true. You're in search for God. Most people is in search for God. They want satisfaction and joy. They just don't know that it's in God. But we'll never find it. We'll have happy moments, but we won't have joy. Jesus has said in your life, you will never really worship and serve God. And I think that's, Kathy talked about that. You got to be committed. You'll never get that.
All right.
If Jesus is at the center of your life, will never fulfill the purpose of why God created you. Four commitments that give your life real meaning, purpose, and joy. If we're going to get to the mountain, we've got to be committed to four things. Now, someone got a Bible? Yeah, good. Let's turn to Matthew 4. This is a simple message. It says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. And once they left their nets and followed him. The first step in first commitment. 4 commitments that give your life real meaning and purpose. Focus your life into a vision for God. Number 1, commitment to following Him. You got to hear His voice. Come. What's He asking of you? Kathy, helping hurting women. Tell us about that, Kathy. You've heard His voice. Tell us about the story of how He got through you in helping her. And you know this. I didn't put that idea in you. Nobody here put that idea in you, did they? No. What happened?
Yeah. I haven't talked about it in such a long time, I don't know. I think it started when we first started counseling. I mean,
Just stand up. Stand up. You weren't prepared for this, I know, but we're in this together. Okay, but go ahead. How did...
I mean, I was a very hurting woman. Didn't have any friends, worked way too much, didn't have much in my life going for me. And when I started counseling and my spirit was made alive, I mean, awoke, maybe I should say. I started to feel something that I never felt before, something brand new, something alive, something exciting, something, and I not only wanted it for me, wanted it for other women. And I thought it was weird last week when you said that, I think it was Paul that got his call before he was even saved, and that's kind of where I was. I wasn't even saved yet, but I knew that I wanted to do that someday. I didn't even know what that meant. It was like, I remember him saying, I think you better slow down. You better get through this yourself first. But I just...
But some light bulbs turned on for you, and you wanted to turn them on
for
all around.
For people, yeah. And I think that's why it's hurting women, because I was a hurting woman. You know, I mean, it's kind of sort of like when if you find a diet that works for you, you want to help other people too, because if it works for you, it can work for other people. And that's not always 100% necessarily true, but I guess it's an analogy, I guess. But
Okay, so that seed was planted all the way back then. Did it come to a point where all of a sudden say, this is what I got to do, this is what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, and I've ignored it many times.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is reality now. You ignored, what have you ignored?
He gave me the name of a group, that he wanted me to call it even, and I still haven't done anything with it. He's given me women. I've talked to some women.
What's your hesitation?
Many things. Fear is probably a big one. Some of the women that I have talked to didn't want to go there. So then I didn't know what to do. I mean, I guess I thought if I opened a window, they would walk through it. And they didn't. They slammed the door in my face. So then I didn't know what to do with that.
Sounds kind of like Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
he came to this earth. Door's pretty much slammed in his face, right?
True. Never thought about it like that.
Could you turn that off, Dave?
It is hard.
Zoom in,
It
make
doesn't,
noise.
yeah.
He's trying.
It's off.
Mute it then, huh?
Okay, so here you are. You're trying to. You got some fears. You got some
Of course, doubts,
doubts and fears.
did I, was it, when am I supposed to do it? What's the timing? That kind of stuff. There's
Take it
always
out
that,
there.
real geek here.
Tell you what. Here we are, we're trying to talk about vision, it's just, the vision's going off. I mean, the vision's just going a different direction. But each of us, I mean, we can just go and, what are we doing? Some of us are in it, some of us are not in it. Go ahead, you can sit down, Kevin. Now, the first call, those early disciples, what was the first call?
Follow me.
Just follow me. Is that too simple? Not like, here's the master plan. This is how it's all going to work. This is how all your T's will be crossed and I's dotted. Sometimes we want to know everything before we get into it. We want to know the ins and outs of it, whether it's going to work, whether we're going to have finances, whether we're going to have the this, whether we're going to have that. Have you heard Jesus call you? And then he says, follow me. And what did they do? Immediately did what?
They're not.
It says they left their nets. In order to follow him, we have to leave some things. What I would like you to think about this week, in order to follow him, what do I have to leave? I'm hearing Kathy say, I have to leave my fears. I have to leave my doubts. Everybody that's been called has to leave and go. This is universal call from God. In order to live His vision for our lives, we have to leave and go. Remember Jeremiah? What was his problem?
Too young.
I'm too young. And what comes with youth? I'm inexperienced. No one's going to listen to me anyway. I'm just a greenhorn. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the resources. I don't have a great job that's going to support myself. I mean, we could go on and on and on that goes with, I'm too young. I'm not educated. And God says, before you were born, I set you apart. Leave and go. Moses, what was his problem? Can you, now we know that Moses, if Moses would have written before he met God at the burning bush, what great book would he have written? I don't think it was a great book, was it? Why?
Would have to be creative nonfiction.
40 years around.
Robbie's taking this is an inside joke. Robbie's taking this class at Ohio State, creative nonfiction. Now, figure this one out. How does creative nonfiction? And Robbie's saying, you mean I'm supposed to lie about the truth? That's creative nonfiction. You just need to embellish it and make it exciting. You mean I have to lie about the truth?
Drama, boy, drama.
And she was alone, and everybody in the class did, and then later somebody else in the class said, I really agree with you, but I didn't want to raise my hand. Robbie was alone in this, and she said that. But anyway, that's the way it went. Creative, not, how do you, anyway.
She thought she was taking creative fiction.
So here's Moses.
Missed that pronoun.
So here's
That
Moses.
prefix.
Can you imagine It was his name that was called out of the burning bush. Moses, Moses. It wasn't like, it was his name. Have you heard God call your name? Inside, you know it's you. You may be in a big place where there's a lot of people, or you may be here today. I'm not saying anything particular. I'm not doing anything particular. I'm not calling you out or anything like that. But God's talking to you, and He's calling your name. And He's saying, follow me. Before the burning bush, he would have wrote a book that was a sad story about killing some Egyptian and running and being on the backside. The desert is bad enough, but the backside of the desert, I don't even know what that looks like. Because that's where it says he was on the backside of the desert. Have you ever felt like you were on the backside of something, of the desert? I mean, I'm talking the back. I mean, that's a bad place. But what changed his life all around was Moses. Moses. And then even in the midst of this, there's God talking to him. I can't imagine him sitting down with the psychiatrist saying, tell me what happened. Well, there was this burning bush, and out of it.
Yeah.
And you know, because this is what happens to us in our moments of doubt. Did I really hear God?
That's right.
Nobody else was there. Nobody else was there. Maybe there's some sheep, but they ain't going to tell anybody anything. Nobody else was there, and he goes back telling, how was that conversation with his wife? Hey, honey, guess what happened to me today?
Probably said you just need
You've been out in the sun too long.
You need to rest.
Did you take your meds?
You went to the backside of the desert again, didn't you? Saw some things over there.
God is calling us. He is calling each of us. He is calling you. And here's Jesus speaking in Revelation to the church, and he says, I'm standing at the door and I'm knocking. And if anyone would hear my voice and let me in. What Jesus is saying is that the church has closed their door on Him. And I want to come in. I want a relationship with you. That's the first thing He says. I want to sup with you and you sup with me. I want to sit down and have a meal with you and have a real relationship. I don't know about you. When you put food down, people talk. You put food down, people mill around, they open their mouths and then they open their mouths and talk. It's amazing what food does. Jesus is into food. He's into having a conversation. He's into sitting down and connecting. This commitment to following Him, to hearing His voice, and then the simple step of saying, I'm going to leave. But there are some reasons we're not following, friends. Each of us here have heard His voice. There are some things we haven't left yet. I think before we put some vision statement down, before we do any of this stuff, you know what they did next? They had a party and they put it in the middle and they burned it. I mean, we need to rip it. Next week we can put it on pieces of paper. This is what in Jesus' name I'm leaving. And you might have to leave it every day. I was a Weight Watcher leader long enough to know that everybody cheats. There's nobody that does the perfect plan. That's not about perfection. It's about getting your heart into it and having it be accountable and walking the walk and being serious about it. Preparing. The worst days that I ever have is when I'm not prepared. I'm just not prepared, and so I eat whatever. I know these things. I'm not. So anyway. The commitment to letting Christ mold me. He says, follow me and what? I will make you. God wants to make us. He wants to put us on His wheel and mold us and make us and remake us. He wants to make us. Now some people have left things. But you know what? We're not necessarily into the letting God put His finger and remake us. He says, I'm going to remake you, and I'm going to make you what? A fisher of men. That means I have an idea of what you need to be. And it's not your idea of what you think you ought to be. Are we going to let Him put His vision in us? And we're going to be, man, I have to cash my life in and go a whole other direction. That's the remake process. Doing something that you never thought you would do. Because He's making it. Number 3, the commitment to ministering to other people. To me, this is if the church gets to this point, when the church gets to this point, it's not about how it feels to me anymore, or if I like it anymore. It's about, I'm here for other folks. I'm here to minister to other people. That's why I'm here. If everybody be like that, it wouldn't be long, we couldn't be in this room anymore. We would have to be somewhere else. Commitment to ministering to other people. And the commitment to doing His will right now. That's the daily thing. They did it right now. They said, well, come follow me. Well, where are you going to be tomorrow, Jesus? I'll catch up with you. Immediately, they left their nets and they followed Him. Now, I've read a little bit, and it appears that it's possible that this is not the first occasion that these guys met Jesus. But there came a point in time when Jesus said, follow me. It's time. We need to put Jeff's name down on here. We've got Kathy, there's
Jeremy.
and
And David.
what's God calling you?
Yeah.
I've got mine now.
Yeah, I know you got yours. That's why. And you just pray about what God's called you to. Maybe you already know. Then you can talk about that. But go ahead, Jeff. You first.
God's earthly vision for me, to be a soldier on the front line giving assistance and help to those who would have a need, for God has blessed me with talents, time, and for just listening, and for the purpose of advancing His kingdom on this earth in the time He's allotted me with the precious gift of life.
Moving this way.
We're having technical.
Verse that captures God's purpose for me is 1 Corinthians 3:7-9. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. The man who plants and the man who waters have one purpose, and each will be rewarded according to his own labor.